Have you ever walked into your living room and felt like the walls were quietly closing in? Not because of fear, but because of things. Piles of memories, stacks of just in case, drawers full of what ifs. You pause for a moment, look around, and realize it's not the space that feels heavy, it's the history. Every corner holds a piece of your life, and somehow it all feels too much and not enough at the same time. Here's something most people over 60 don't realize. Decluttering isn't just about letting go of stuff. It's about releasing a version of yourself that no longer needs to be carried. The sweaters you never wear, the old magazines you meant to read, the boxes labeled someday. Each item has a story, and each story pulls you a little further from the calm you crave. But here's the strange part. Some of the things we do in the name of organizing actually keep us trapped in clutter. We think we're tidying up when really we're just shifting the weight from one place to another. And the more we move it, the harder it becomes to see what truly matters. Today, we'll uncover 7 useless tasks that steal your peace and make you believe you're making progress when you're not. One of them in particular is something most people over 60 do every single week without realizing it's the reason their home never feels calm. And the truth behind it might surprise you. Are you ready to find out what's really standing between you and the serenity you've been searching for? It usually starts so small, so innocent. A few plastic bins, some labeled boxes, maybe a new shelf that promises to make everything look tidy. You tell yourself it's just organizing, just a little weekend project to make your home feel lighter. But deep down, you can feel it. It isn't really helping. You're not organizing your space, you're rearranging your anxiety. The truth is, the brain loves patterns. We keep things because they remind us who we used to be. The photo album filled with faces that time has softened. The sewing kit from the 80s that once fixed everything in the house. The old scarves you haven't worn in years but still fold neatly, as if waiting for a version of yourself that might return. These things whisper to you, remember when life felt full? When you had energy? When the world seemed endless? But as we grow older, what we truly crave isn't more reminders, it's more room to breathe. Many people spend entire weekends moving the same piles, adjusting, stacking, straightening, never realizing they're just creating the illusion of control. It's comforting for a moment, but exhausting in the long run. Every time you rearrange without deciding, you tell your mind that peace lives in movement. Yet, real peace begins in stillness. When you finally stop and let the silence fill the space, something magical happens. You begin to see what truly matters. And for the first time in a long while, your home feels like a reflection of calm instead of chaos. We all have them. The unfinished projects tucked away in boxes, the half-knitted scarf, the scrapbook you swore you'd finish one rainy afternoon, the donation pile that's been sitting by the door for months. They sit quietly, waiting for someday. But here's the truth no one likes to admit. Someday never really comes. And every time we promise ourselves that we'll get to it later, we push peace further away. These someday projects aren't just things to do, they're emotional placeholders, They represent the dreams we didn't finish, the plans that changed, the energy we wish we still had. It feels easier to keep them close than to face what they really mean. Letting go feels like giving up, so we let them linger, even though each one quietly drains a little more space, a little more energy, a little more joy. Creating future piles doesn't make life lighter. It postpones clarity. A box labeled "deal with later" becomes a box of quiet guilt, and guilt has weight. It lingers in the air, in the corners of your mind, and the places you avoid cleaning because it hurts to look too closely. But the moment you finally face one of those boxes, something shifts. You realize you don't need to hold on to a project to hold on to its meaning. You can let it go and still keep the lessons, the memories, the love behind it. Because peace doesn't live in unfinished plans. It lives in the courage to say, "I'm done carrying this now."
Have you ever caught yourself dusting the same shelf for the 10th time, carefully polishing a vase you never really liked, or folding towels that no one ever uses? It feels comforting, doesn't it? The soft rhythm of cleaning gives you a sense of control, a sense that you're doing something, moving forward somehow. But deep down, you know what you're really doing is maintaining what no longer matters. Cleaning can become a way to distract ourselves from the truth. We polish, scrub, and organize, not because these things bring joy, but because they help us avoid the silence that follows if we stop. It's easier to keep busy than to sit still and face the emptiness that clutter hides. We dust the past because it feels safer than letting it go. But here's the thing. Every moment spent cleaning something unnecessary is a moment stolen from the peace you deserve. You're investing time and care into objects that no longer serve your life today. It's like watering a plant that's already dried out, hoping one more drop of attention will bring it back to life. Real peace begins when you stop maintaining what no longer belongs in your world. When you let go of the things that only collect dust, you make space for the ones that still make your heart feel alive. And then something amazing happens. Your home begins to breathe again. The light feels warmer, the air feels softer, and you realize you never needed a cleaner home. You needed a clearer one. You know the one I'm talking about. The drawer that never truly closes. The one filled with tangled cords, old chargers that fit nothing anymore, broken watches, expired coupons, and little things that once seemed too small to matter, but somehow became too heavy to throw away. You open it every so often, maybe looking for a pen, and instead you're met with a quiet wave of guilt. Not for what's inside, but for what it represents. That drawer holds more than objects. It holds decisions postponed, promises forgotten, and tiny fragments of a life that's always been in motion. We keep these things because parting with them feels wrong, as if we're throwing away a piece of ourselves. So we close the drawer and promise, "I'll deal with it later." But later rarely comes. Keeping out of obligation is one of the heaviest emotional traps we fall into. We tell ourselves someone might need it, that it's wasteful to toss it out, or that we'll fix it someday. But the truth is, that drawer doesn't need fixing. Our relationship with guilt does. When you finally gather the courage to empty it, you'll feel it. The lightness that follows release. The guilt you've been carrying wasn't in the objects at all. It was in the hesitation to let them go. And when you realize that,
you begin to understand that letting go doesn't erase your memories or your worth. It simply opens space for new peace to enter. Because freedom doesn't always come from big decisions. Sometimes it begins with one small drawer and the strength to finally say, I'm ready. This one is tender, the sentimental clutter. The photos, the souvenirs, the birthday cards, the love letters, the tiny baby shoes tucked away in boxes you haven't opened in years. Each piece feels like a doorway to another time, another version of yourself, another heartbeat that still lingers in the air. You touch these things gently, almost afraid that if you let them go, the memories will disappear too. But here's the quiet truth. Memories don't live in the objects. They live in you. They're in the way a song still makes you smile, the smell of rain that reminds you of childhood, the warmth that floods your chest when you think of someone you once loved. No object can hold that kind of life. Only your heart can. Holding on to too many keepsakes can actually blur the moments that truly matter. When every drawer and shelf is filled with pieces of the past, it becomes harder to see the present. You start living in a museum of your own life, curating moments that once made you happy, instead of creating new ones that still can. The key isn't to throw away everything, it's to choose wisely. Find that one photograph that still makes your heart flutter, that one letter that captures the essence of love, that one keepsake that feels alive. Keep those. Let the rest rest. Because true connection isn't built from cluttered memories. It's built from the peace of knowing what truly deserves to stay. And when you finally choose the few that matter most, something inside you softens, the noise quiets, and suddenly your space feels sacred again, like a gentle reflection of a life beautifully lived, not endlessly stored. We all know this one too well. The just-in-case drawer, closet, or even room. The clothes that don't fit anymore but might someday. The extra blankets in case guests visit, even though they rarely do. The kitchen gadgets still in boxes, waiting for the right moment to finally be useful. Every item feels practical, responsible, maybe even smart to keep, until you realize how heavy all those what-ifs have become. Just in case is how clutter disguises itself as preparation. It whispers, "You might need me one day." And you listen because you care, because you've lived long enough to know that life can be unpredictable. But the truth is, most of the things we keep for someday never serve us again. They simply take up the space where peace should live. Think about it. How many times have you reached for something you saved for years, only to forget you even had it? The fear of not being ready makes us hold on to more than we need. But readiness doesn't come from stuff. It comes from trust. Trust in your ability to adapt, to find a way, to live simply and still be safe. You've spent a lifetime handling surprises, raising families, building careers, surviving storms. You are already prepared. You don't need a drawer full of what-ifs to remind you of your strength. What you need now is room to breathe, room to move freely through your space without tripping over old fears disguised as objects. When you finally release the things you've been keeping just in case, something beautiful happens. You begin to feel lighter, freer, more confident. You start to realize that the real security doesn't come from having more. It comes from needing less. And that's when your home starts to reflect the peace you've always deserved. And then there's the most dangerous task of all, the one that feels harmless but quietly steals years of peace: waiting for motivation. You tell yourself you'll start decluttering when you feel ready, when the mood strikes, when you finally have the energy. But the truth is, that moment rarely comes. Motivation doesn't lead you to action. Action creates motivation. We wait for a spark, a perfect day, a sudden wave of inspiration. But life after 60 has taught you something important. Peace doesn't come from waiting. It comes from doing. Not rushing, not forcing, just gently beginning. One drawer, one shelf, one small corner that you decide deserves calm. It's easy to believe that a perfect plan will make it easier, but perfection is another form of procrastination. The real magic happens in the smallest steps, the quiet moments when you finally pick something up and decide, this stays, this goes. That simple act of deciding is power. It's freedom in motion. Because once you start, something inside shifts. You begin to see progress where there was only overwhelm. The air feels lighter, your mind clearer. You notice how sunlight dances differently across the room, how silence suddenly feels comforting instead of empty. And that feeling, that quiet peace, is your reward for showing up before you were ready. Don't wait for motivation to find you. Create it, one small choice at a time. Because the truth is, the moment you start letting go, life starts giving back. What you clear from your home, you also clear from your heart. And in that newfound space, peace has a place to settle. Decluttering after 60 isn't about tossing things away. It's about choosing what still matters, about making room for the life you want to live today. It's not about perfection. It's about intention. Every item you release, every drawer you clear, every corner you simplify is a small act of courage, a decision to put yourself and your peace first. The truth is, peace was never hiding in your things. It was waiting in the quiet spaces between them. It was waiting in the empty corner where sunlight falls just right, in the soft hum of your favorite chair, in the gentle rhythm of your own breathing. And the more you let go of what no longer serves you, the more you begin to notice these moments, to live in them fully, to let them fill you with calm. When you finally let go of the clutter that has weighed you down for years, you'll discover something incredible: the lightness of being, the freedom to move, the joy of living without unnecessary weight. You'll see that your home is more than a collection of things. It's a reflection of your life, your memories, your choices, and your heart. So tonight, open a drawer, pick up one object, and hold it gently. thank it for the memories it carried, and then let it go. Feel the small lift in your chest, the subtle shift in your space, the quiet whisper of freedom. Because freedom doesn't always come in big moments. Sometimes it begins quietly, softly, in the courage to say, I am ready, I am at peace, and I am home.